This move isn't fair, but not for the reasons you might think. To understand why, we first need to know who this guy is. So the title update just dropped, and with it came a few new monsters. Risen Kushala, Teostra, and of course Chaotic Gore Magala. But it's that third one that I want to focus on. First, some history. Gore Magala is a strange monster that has a bunch of question marks for its classification. This makes sense since we later find out that it's just a younger form of the elder dragon Chaotic Magala. When a Gore Magala reaches a certain age, it sheds its skin and turns into the golden dragon we all know and love. But what if we pressed B mid-evolution? Well, then we'd get something like this. Chaotic Gore Magala is a bit of a failure. It's a freak of nature who couldn't properly evolve and now exists in a state of perpetual suffering. The last bit of context you need to know to really understand what makes this hunt so unfair is the frenzy virus. It's this black smoke that Gore and Shigaru were able to wield to generate projectiles, ruin local ecosystems, and file their taxes. And it's significantly stronger in Shigaru's form. Shigaru, however, has full control over this extra power boost. You can see this in attacks where it'll follow up a swing with a blast of frenzy. Chaotic Gore Magala isn't in control of this extra power since it failed to evolve into Shigaru properly. It's a panicked, confused monster that's in constant pain, and the gameplay perfectly mirrors this by doing a few key things. This hunt demonstrates Capcom's genius ability to tell a story through gameplay alone. Even if we didn't have the context of what this monster was, we'd still have an idea about what's going on thanks to the gameplay. Each of its moves help to demonstrate this idea of panic and chaos, but let's look at them more in depth so you can really understand what I'm talking about. Base Gore Magala has this move where he winds up and then throws himself at you. This attack is pretty predictable, and you've got a good idea of exactly what he's about to do before the attack even begins. Now if you go into Chaotic's version of this same attack, it's a bit different. See, he starts the exact same way, but then he follows it up with a blast of frenzy aimed directly at the subscribe button. This is a bit of a sneaky move from the monster that catches you off guard, but it's hardly the most underhanded thing it does. Gore Magala has this attack that launches explosives either straight forwards or to the left and right. This is a relatively orderly attack, and it's pretty simple to dodge. If it's the forward variant, you go left or right, and if it's left or right, you go forward or back. It's a threatening attack, sure, and the explosions do deal a fair bit of damage, but it's nothing that's going to catch you off guard. Naturally then, Chaotic Gore Magala pulls something a bit different. Each of the explosions go diagonal instead of forwards or left and right. This unnatural attack pattern makes these explosions all the more difficult to avoid. Most of Chaotic Gore Magala's attacks are like this. They're irregular, they're fast, and they're confusing. And it's in this way that Capcom is trying to tell us a story. They're trying to convey those same feelings that this monster has by making the hunt itself as frantic, panic-inducing, and confusing as possible. This is taken even a step further when you look at Shigaru and Gore. I've mentioned a few times that the moves that Chaotic has are different versions of moves that both Gore and Shigaru have. This helps to build this idea of confusion even more. I mean, think about it. The more comfortable you are with Gore and Shigaru, the more Chaotic is going to be able to catch you off guard with moves that look similar but are just wrong. These attacks are a crude amalgamation of both movesets that leave both the hunter and, sadly, even the monster confused. Neither party in this hunt has a clue what's going on, and that's exactly how it should be. And this all leads us back to that move from the beginning. Why is this move so unfair? Well, you probably already know by now, but in case you don't, this move basically spells it out, and that's why I chose to highlight it. For most monsters, right after their big move, they might taunt or just stand there for a bit admiring the destruction they were able to cause. Chaotic Gore Magala is a bit different. It just sits there, writhing in pain. Because the reality is, this entire encounter isn't just a struggle for you, it's a struggle for the monster as well. You see, this move alone isn't unfair. The entire hunt is. This is a monster that just got a bad hand. It failed through no fault of its own and is now in a perpetual state of suffering due to its inability to become what it was always supposed to be. This monster's failure to ascend left it tattered and ruined. Now the only thing we can do is put it out of its misery. And honestly, that just isn't fair. Anyway, if you enjoyed that video, why not check out this much more lighthearted one on how Capcom did the impossible with another monster in Sunbreak.